demonstrations too. They would make us do these demonstrations where we would literally have to do a mock.
This was what we kind of looked like Baywatch.
Yeah, this
We
was our
loved the
Baywatch
demonstrations.
moment. Demonstrations, except for sometimes it would suck if I was like, okay, I'll be the victim. I was always like, yep, I'm victim. And we'd have to go out. We'd do different ones. Some of the guards were more into
so many different ones.
But the one we had done we would always do one for 4th of July. It was like our show.
That was the big one, the show day.
Because I remember like jumping off the stand and doing our beach run.
Yeah.
And then someone running to get on the boat. And then we would do 2 guards were like play victim, and they would be in the canoe, and we'd flip a canoe.
Yeah.
And then have the guards in the boat. You had to, overturn the canoe and get the canoe up, which is not easy.
You have to be very
strong.
I
did have to do that by myself working in the boathouse before too,
Absolutely.
where you swamp a canoe.
You had to do it by, I had to do it by myself all the time.
16-year-old, then I'm not lifting weights and stuff. I'm not that strong. And I'm like, holy shit, having to... I'll never forget when 4 men fucking watched me flip an aluminum canoe.
That was always the weirdest thing, because so what you would have to do would be, okay, so sometimes it was an accident, sometimes it was totally on purpose. And so if the canoe flips, you're in the boat. There's always a guard on
you're in the rowboat.
So you're in the rowboat, the motor. You go over and you're like, hey, okay, first and foremost, let me get you guys.
Get them into the rowboat.
Let me get you guys into the rowboat.
Which is not as easy as everybody thinks.
At all. You have to teach them how to do it. You're pulling them from.
And they're like drunk, grown men.
Right. Pulling them from the back of their
bathing suit?
Well, their bathing suit or the life jacket.
Yeah, the life jacket.
And saying to them, okay, I'm going to pull you, I'm going to lift you, and you have to kick, and then throw your leg over. So you get all the grown men into the rowboat, and then you're the one, and they don't, nice guys, normal people would totally, you'd be like, oh, let me help you. And I'd be like, oh, great. Yeah. Let me tell you what to do. I'm going to flip it this way, because you have to flip the canoe completely over, and then you pick it up so it's upside down, so all the water comes out, so it's not as heavy. Drain it over the boat, flip it back over, and then you get everyone back in the water. You hold the canoe next to the rowboat, and then you say, okay, and then you tell them how to get in.
F y'all, I'm towing it back. You give them the option.
If they were assholes, then you just tow them back. If they were doing it on purpose and you told them multiple times, don't flip it.
It's Tweedledee, no more.
But yeah, so if they didn't help you, they were doing that out of either they were assholes or they just wanted to watch you sweat.
Or they were like exhausted because they couldn't get their asses up in the boat.
Yeah, that would happen
seriously,
too.
there was one guy that I'm like,
okay,
I'm going to have to I don't want to swim you back, but but
truthfully, the scariest thing would really be, I mean, it was legitimate. It wasn't ocean guarding, and that, if a person floats out, you don't know where they're going.
Right.
But the scariest thing was when a parent would come up, because this water, you can't, you can barely see in the most shallow end, down to your feet.
Right.
But it would be when they would say, hey, I don't know where my kid is. And they weren't sure where they were last seen. So then you're like, maybe they're in the water. So we would have to.
Or when it was a summer camp and they were missing a kid. And then our first question would be like, do they know how to swim? And it was always no.
Right. And so we would have to close off the entrance to the entire park, because there's two things that are
kidnapping
happening simultaneously. Are they drowning or are they kidnapped?
Yeah.
So you close off. And this also too was the crazy thing. That process was implemented by the former manager before Lindsay became a manager.
Are you
That
kidding?
was us. That was the guards that implemented the kidnapping, shut the park down when you lose a kid. It wasn't like that came from the Rangers. So we would have to shut the park down. Then we'd start to tell, hey, Rangers, patrol the different, locations.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we would have to get we'd announce it. You'd have to get
we
all
would
the
have someone go to the
patrons.
falls, or the ranger would go to
We'd
the
have
falls.
to get all the patrons to the edge of the lake on the beach. You'd say, and you'd be screaming, "What? We are all going to get in a line. We are all going to hold hands."
You would ask for adults.
Adults, yes. And we're all going to get in a line. We are all going to hold hands, and we are going to walk in the water. And you are going to be feeling with your feet.
Yeah, we would do a line search.
You're going to do a line search. You're going to feel with your feet for a body. And I would remember,
it was crazy.
The couple of times that we would do it, there was always, of course, the men, men and women, but a lot of times, men would jump up, first, and their faces would always kind of be shocked. Oh my God, am I really about to feel a kid's? Thank God we never actually found anyone that way. It would usually always be that they wandered off. And
did you ever have a save there? I never had a save at Cunningham.
Yeah. I had, there was, and it was honestly, thank God that we were there, but it was before we were actually on duty. So it was between like 9:30 and 10. We're getting ready in the guard shack. And there were also signs too that we would cover up the signs that it would say it would be on duty and off duty. So the patrons would know there's no guard there.
Swim at your own risk.
Swim at your own risk. And so somebody starts yelling, "Hey, help, they're having trouble." There was a kid that was 10, somewhere between 7 and 10, out at the edge of the second rope. So this is deep. And they were on a raft and they fell off. And they could not get their footing. So they were like flailing. And, you know, it was that typical, again, another safety tip. Just because you have a raft, you do not use that raft in water where you can't stand if you cannot swim.
Yeah, or any kind of floaty.
Yeah, if you can't swim. Because, so anyway, so he falls off of the thing. He's flailing. And I remember it was when I had sprained my ankle. And it was healing. And so, but I was still wearing like my ACE thing.
Yeah.
From basketball. And I said, Lindsay and I looked at each other and she's like, go. And I like just threw my shirt off. I was like, had the least amount of clothes, you know, threw my shirt off and grabbed the tube because the tubes are the first thing you always hung up, hanging on the side, grabbed the tube and ran into the water and saved the kid. But yeah, I mean, he would, if we hadn't been there, if he had gotten in 15 minutes before, he probably would have drowned because his parents didn't know how to swim. That's why they were asking for help.
Yes. And that's what's crazy is, like I said, there were so many people you would hear when we would ask them, does your child know how to swim? And they'd be like, no. And they do. We would see that a lot. Parents do act like the lifeguard is the babysitter. I mean, you see it even if you know how to swim and your kid knows how to swim and they're just like at the pool, like over here talking. I'm like, where's your freaking kid?
Yep.
And it is like, I remember mom saying it when we were kids, but it is like, I joke now and I say to Joe, once a guard, always a guard, because I cannot be on waterways without being like safe. I mean, no one should because things happen in an instant on the water. But pool, anything. Sometimes I'm like, you know, it's not enjoyable for me right now. I'm like, all I'm doing is scanning, or I'm watching the lifeguard. That is a shitty lifeguard that's on their phone. I see that now.
Ugh.
I saw that recently at a pool.
Fucking insane.
Joe and I were watching it, and I was like, this is insane. It's been minutes. He's been looking down at his phone.
And the thing is, too, and that's...
I said something to him. I go, you need to put your phone away. I go, I used to be a lifeguard. I'm like... 3-year-old. What is it? It's 3 feet in front of the guard chair.
Is the hardest
3 feet of water.
Most common area for someone to drown because you can't see right under the guard chair, right?
Yeah, it's like it's either like a 3-year-old or 3 feet high. Yeah, it's 3 feet around. It's hard to see because it's straight down on your feet, and it's 3 feet of water. And you're thinking as a lifeguard, oh, the shallow end, the great end, and like a 3-year-old being that's they're underwater
and they're more comfortable, but they can't fully swim.
Right. We learned too the water safety stuff. I was involved in the save, but it wasn't mine. Actually, it was Lindsay. I remember they had to do like rescue breathing for a little girl, and she was wearing. I don't see them now. I'm sure they probably banned them, but one of those. Think of a wrestling singlet that then has had. Flotation
they like shove them
section shoved in, so it's like a bathing suit, sewn in. So it's like the kids would be wearing a full suit. But the thing about those at the time, which was kids couldn't flip over. They'd flip one way,
and then they couldn't flip back. So if you flipped on your front, you couldn't get back
to your
over.
back.
And so there were certain things that were known. So it was always that you were watching, especially at Cunningham, because you couldn't see, more than a couple feet.
Always scanning.
It would be always scanning, always counting heads, because especially in Area 1, I remember I forgot about that. I remember watching 100 people by myself.
Which is not allowed. Wasn't it supposed to be like 25?
In July. Well, okay, so technically I should say it wouldn't have been by myself because I was in the guard chair, but then if we had that many people in the water, then the people in the shack were also watching.
Yeah.
And, each side. But that's how many people I had counted. That's how many people were in front of me. And so, but that's also the thing that is crazy as parents that are, like you saying, using the lifeguards as a babysitter. If you can't, like, you should be all eyes on someone in your party needs to be like all eyes on the kid and know where the kids are all the time. Because even though the guard is watching,
it's a lot
there's
of freaking
a lot
kids,
of kids.
and you can't at a lake. Oh my God. I saw something online the other day that was showing kids' bathing suit colors and how the bathing suit can look in ocean water, pool water, and like maybe lake water. It's really interesting because it was showing you like, maybe not your typical color, like how it would just, you could see it more easily, but like you couldn't see shit after like 1 inch of water at that lake. And speaking of, there was another thing that happened. Well, actually, this was when the day had started. We were on duty, but one swimming area wasn't open because sometimes it was like really, remember the swimming area 2 was like disgusting. It was so muddy.
The second is area 2.
Area 2.
Gross,
Yeah. And this couple is there.
Oh my God. I think I know what you're going to say.
And they were from out of town.
Oh my God.
And they lived in the US, but they definitely were not from the US initially. And I think they're more like DMV people, like further closer to DC at the time. And we're watching them and they're in the area. We told them the swimming area is closed, but we didn't care. People just were like standing in it ankle deep, you know. Yeah. And they're standing in there and all of a sudden this guy gets down on one knee and he proposes and he drops the ring.
This was honestly the dumbest thing I had ever seen because one, who proposes in water for that exact fear?
And literally like
lake
if
water,
you had just stepped 2 feet up onto the sand.
Beach, like lake water, this is the bottom of it. It's not, even if it was
silty,
sand,
muddy.
Mud. It's worse than
like
doing it in the ocean.
Yes.
And he lost the ring. We couldn't.
He lost the ring.
He looked all day. We looked all day.
We were like, oh my God, he's proposing. Then we were like, no. And we all were like, why would you do that there? And then he drops the ring. We're like, no fucking way. Drops the ring. He's panicked. She's like, no. He is asking us, do we have a mask or something? We're like, we do. You couldn't see anything.
Couldn't see anything. And he was asking, do we have
a metal detector?
A metal detector. And I was like, it wouldn't matter. It's in the water.
Well, then our beach manager had one member. She used to come in and scuba dive. Before
my God,
hours.
I forgot about this. Because
she started, stuff. I think it was after her time.
She heard about the diamond.
Honestly.
Freak.
She was an interesting character.
But I felt so bad for that guy.
Oh my God, so bad. We were like, oh my God.
I hope they worked out. I hope it worked out.
I do too. I hope it wasn't.
I hope he had insurance, to be honest.
You know, he probably didn't.
God.
But it was just so much going on there. Also,
no, but it was crazy because the thing was, there were so many different, you were asking about saves. But I mean, I had head injuries because the falls, people would go down. I don't know if I said this earlier.
Yeah, you and I ran with the back. I said that about the guy with the broken leg. I was like, holy shit.
I had a kid with a slashed head. I had hypothermia.
Yeah.
We had to wrap there was those hypothermic blankets. I had a choking victim.
I remember one time someone was like, get oxygen. And I'm like, I'm not certified to give oxygen.
Yeah, we did.
Somebody on the team I think some people were because some of our guards
did have a tank.
Coincidentally were like trying to become EMTs and stuff. So people have different certifications. I was like, not on my watch. Literally, like if I'm not certified, my ass is not getting sued.
No.
But I never had I had, canoe tips. I never had an active drowning until I actually never had one when I was lifeguarding there or when we went to then the pool guarding.
Right.
I saved a kid when we were living in DC. And I was probably like 24 and we went river tubing at Harper's Ferry.
This was intense. Thank God. That was one of those things. That was, I think, the only time I ever went river tubing.
Yeah, same.
And
like there anyway.
Yeah, exactly there. And if we hadn't been there that day,
he would have died
for sure.
Absolutely. And the friend could have too.
Yeah.
We were tubing and we were drinking, we were doing our own thing and a tour of people too. We had our own tubes. So we did our own river tubing. And then there was a tour group that had gone beyond us. They were seeing it as well, other random bystanders. But there were these 2 boys that were like high school, I would say like sophomores in high school. And if you've been to Harper's Ferry, there's some big like rocks kind of on the side people will like jump into. And people just don't understand the current in a river, in an ocean, and any waterway, unless, the lake doesn't have the current. But so we're going along, floating down this river. And
it's moving.
Again, when we talk about once a guard, always a guard, we're seeing these 2 boys. And I'm like, oh God, the one boy is pulling the other under because the one friend is trying to help him. And you know what that happens is you're just pulling somebody under. You're both going to drown. And you know, when you're high school kids, it's like muscly boys, the worst kind to try to stay afloat because muscle sinks and fat floats. So it's hard if you're a guy to learn how to swim when you're older. And this guy is actually drowning. And I said something to Morgan, like, oh my God, like, are you seeing this? And she was like, holy shit. And I got out of that tube again, where it was like adrenaline.
I literally remember saying, and you looked at me and I go, go, Stacey. And you just started hauling up.
And swam over to this kid. I was like, because I said, like, do you need help?
And you did the smart thing that you kept the tube with you.
Yeah. They were acting like.
Just like a guard tube.
They were acting, the other kid, he was like, the one kid that he was pulling under was kind of like not, they weren't, because that's the other thing that happens. Someone's drowning, they're embarrassed in the moment.
It's so sad. Yeah.
And I'm like, you help? And he was like, oh, we're okay, kind of thing. And I just ignored it and swam over. And I was like, grab the tube and swam this kid back to the rocks. And he told me he didn't really know how to swim very well. Clearly, they had been drinking. He was out of breath. They were so scared. And he just kept saying, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But I was like, holy shit, he would have died.
I remember where he was. You could not stand.
No, it was a fast current. That's why we were like, I said to you, back me up because I was further ahead. You were beyond me. Yeah.
And I seriously remember you were ahead and you looked at me and I go, Stacey, go. And and it happened so quick too that you got him out of the water. Yeah. But it could have been that quick that he would have been under.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Some of us wear hoodies. Actually, you know what's hilarious?
Some people stand in the dark.
Oh my. Afraid to step into the light.
Some people need to help somebody. I love you, Mitch Buchanan, David Hasselhoff. Greatest artist of our time.
Oh my God. But you know what? Real quick though, thinking about some people don't wear capes, wear red. You know what makes me think of wearing, because I have my Jolynn top on right now, which I also wear as like a regular bra because it's so damn comfortable.
Jolynn, the brand, JOLYN. If you are a sporty girl, guy, swimmer, do they have menswear? I think they do now.
I don't know. Maybe they do. I just remember when I first discovered them in 2014, they only had like 3 kinds of suits. That's how small they were. They are now massive.
And they were focused more on like
surfing. It's always been sporty.
Yeah, sporty brand.
The bottoms are the best because they have the tie.
Well, to me, the tops are the best, especially if you have big boobs. But
when you're sporty, that you can tie it and it won't fall off of you. You tie it tight.
Top your top off. I'm just
can't see
it. But the tops, they have different ones, but they're specifically the one version. It's a cross top, so it doesn't hang on your neck. You can adjust it, but they last really well.
And it's for all sizes. It's sporty, and you can have a large chest.
Yeah, they have tons of different.
But my point is with bringing them up is that now, and if you go look them up, you will see that, or do a hashtag on social media. Lifeguards, swim team, dive team, water polo, surfing, everybody wears these Jolynn. And they're great price, they're affordable.
They didn't have Jolynn in 2002.
We did not have Jolynn. We were going to Rugged Warehouse, which if you know, digging through the bins
everywhere we could go. Any place that sold bathing suits. Literally, we would. I remember Mom like starting in the spring, anytime she was like in Frederick at random department stores or like.
Yeah, because you needed to have, it had to not only be red, it had to be solid.
And sporty, obviously.
You couldn't have like a flower.
We're pretty big.
Exactly.
Big
it had to
girls.
be sporty.
We didn't want to have like tits out. Sporty, yeah. And you're like swimming in it, you're running in it, and you're at it's a uniform.
Yeah, basically need to be a sports bra top and then bottoms that were going to stay on.
To find red suits. Yes. And then the ones they were expensive. The ones we had to order. Yes. And you could only order them really if you knew anybody on a swim team.
Because you couldn't.
Because we didn't have online shopping.
No.
Now.
So, Jolynn, you know what? We are huge fans. Been with you since basically the beginning.
But what a difference you're making for guards.
What a difference you're making for guards.
Everywhere.
Oh, my God.
Then we also wore, because the one pieces were so high cut. I'm wearing that all day, especially if that's your job, and every girl knows if we're not you're pulling that to the side to pee.
To the side, and it gets hot too.
It's hot.
Because we would dip in.
You're probably more likely to get a yeast infection.
Totally, but you dip in to cool off, but also
then you're like, then you're wearing
more to dry, and so much more comfortable to have the 2-piece. I will say we were very lucky at Cunningham. We got great. Like we still have these
we
sweats.
got a sweatsuit every
We got
year.
a sweatsuit every single year. You got 2 t-shirts, you got a hat, and
I forgot about that. Oh my God, that hat.
of course you got a whistle. But yeah. And
we also got we would get holiday pay on 4th of July.
Oh, absolutely.
And we used to start working a little bit earlier before sometimes Memorial Day.
And it was
kicked off
hourly,
the season.
so we always got paid.
So I don't even know what minimum wage was then, but I remember I think I was making $9.50.
We were making more than that because I think
$10 an hour or something like that.
I'm
getting confused by there and then when we worked at the pool. Because we worked at Cunningham and then we worked at a retirement community.
Yeah, I thought it was like $11.50.
Definitely at the retirement, I feel like.
I don't know, but I remember it was the most money any of our friends were making. You know, we were making
rich.
I mean, we certainly weren't rich, but we just sure as
help pay for those school books.
Absolutely pay for those school books.
But one of the highlights of our garden career at Cunningham, because I think, we could talk, was the last summer we were gardening there, we get a call from the media.
Oh my God. Yes. How could we? Oh my God. I can't believe I was
the Frederick News Post. Someone, I don't know if I can't remember if it was someone at the Post happened. I think that's what it was. They happened to be up at the lake and they were like,
no, that's exactly what it was.
They were like, oh my gosh.
I don't know. I can tell you exactly what happened. I remember this. Mom gets a call. Mom and Dad get a call, and it was Mom answers. And, hi, I'm so-and-so from the Frederick News Post. I saw your girls up at Cunningham Falls at the lifeguards, yada, yada, yada. This guy comes to our house, interviews all 4 of us. Mimi obviously is too young.
No, even her. They even had her included. They
quoted her. They did quote her. That's right, because I thought she was so cute. Yeah. And she was like, I'm going to be a future guard.
It was our whole family.
He's in our living room.
Yeah.
Interviews us about like our life and the gardening and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then follows it up by coming to Cunningham Falls. We did a full photo shoot.
We had multiple locations.
And then the one that they went with was us. We have 2 canoes.
2 of us are down in the water,
like, with our arm up on the
lifeguard tube. We were talking about in front said guard,
and then 2 are like up in the boat.
Yeah,
and that was on the cover page of the sports section.
Or was it sports or like lifestyle? Probably
it was lifestyle or sports.
Yeah, it was just like a profile. Yeah,
and I remember
the phone's ringing off the hook.
Sister, and it goes into the whole.
If you think you're seeing double or maybe even triple or something,
and then it goes
probably
into,
are.
You probably are. But the Williams sisters.
So we of course thought it was hysterical. Our other coworkers were like, "Oh my god, this is ridiculous."
I remember them watching, being like, "Of course they're getting their
of course." And we were again, multiple
Lindsay's
shots,
the manager
like,
at this point
in the water. I'm like, "This is as close as we've gotten to a photo shoot. This is as close as we've gotten to our real Baywatch moment." And then the article comes out, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, it's here!" Of course, the Frederick News Post, they gave us one. It's still hanging up at Mom and Dad's. It's like a placard.
It's the entryway to our parents' home.
Welcome in.
When your parents love you when their oldest child is 42 and their shining moment on the cover of
shining moment because our parents' house is full of
our photos.
Moment.
No, but I'm just saying it's the entryway of us.
The article comes out, and this is before texting, right? So one that is also the sidebar.
Before texting, like
we
eons before
good
texting.
Service up at the lake. So we all had our little flip phones at the time, but we used to all use the guard phone and make phone calls. More on that. But we start getting people like, oh my God, my parents, this is summer too. So now we're going into school. People are like, oh my God, my mom just showed me this Frederick News Post article. Girlfriend's like, this is hilarious. The guys. And I'll never forget one of our good guy friends was like, are you freaking kidding me? And we're like, oh, I love it. He's like, I think the whole cover is just like sisters with titties.
Because the guy did, again, because seriously though, we did do a full photo shoot around the park and we definitely had our t-shirts on. They took the only one where we had to get in the water and we were wet and in our tops.
Yeah, and it was kicking out. Because I remember you're also positioned, you're like holding yourself up because I couldn't touch the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so it's all chest out.
I mean, truthfully,
lifeguard.
I mean, talk about Victoria's Secret swimsuit models when they say the water was freezing or whatever. It was, you guys were literally, like, it was a hard position.
Yeah.
You had to, like, kick your legs to hold up a
aside,
smile.
Adriana Lima and the
Rada,
Hadid
we're coming for you.
I was there. But it was our little claim to fame. It was hysterical, though. But when the one friend said that, it was just so funny. And, like, I always think of it now, honestly, when I look at the picture, because it's just hilarious.
Yeah, of course.
But it just, it then goes on. We lifeguarded at the lake for a couple of years. And then we didn't, the summer of after my freshman year of college, you had just graduated. And so we all did our last summer of fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the time of year where you're like, okay, I got to go submit my stuff to make sure that, Cunningham has my thing. We didn't get asked back. Just us. Just the Williams girls.
Just the Williams girls.
We did not get asked back, and they couldn't confirm why. And they were like, oh, we're fully staffed. And we're like, interesting.
Interesting.
One of these things or four of these things are not like the others. Mm-hmm. And let's just say we were the diversity on the squad.
And the hilarious thing was we were the ones that were managing and running the whole shit.
And brought in a lot of the other guards.
We brought in all the other guards. The only ones that we didn't bring in, there was like 4 out of the staff of 10.
Yeah, there were a couple we brought in, but 2, but also that stayed.
Genuinely.
Yeah, we were a crew. Yeah.
Yeah. We were the majority, and those that we were recruited were the majority. And everyone loved us.
Yeah, we had a great
team.
time.
We were great. We were all friends.
50% of the fucking team. We don't get asked back, so we're like, what the hell? It's our summer job. What are we going to do? Long story short, again, we have internet at this time. I still remember being at my little desk in my dorm, like, where the hell are we going to work? And of course, because we would share cars at that point, it was like annoying to find a job where now we have to worry about all of us working at the same time. So long story short, I find this random company, Century Pool Management. If you know, you know. If you've been personally victimized by Century Pool Management, I'm taking a sip for you. Mm-hmm. More on that. But Century was just like a typical management. They have a lot of these bigger guard companies that will do the management of random pools. So like public pools, people's private community pools. And they also will do the staffing. So I submitted an application to Century because I saw there was an opening in Tawnytown, Maryland.
Yeah, random.
And like, this is random, which is like further than Cunningham, but it was a pool that was still not terribly far.
And it wasn't bad. And it was, but we were also like, what pool is over there?
Yeah, we're like, because it's
a really small town.
So then we get the lowdown. And our dad at the time was working for the power company and had helped to put electricity. So he's like, oh, I know this place. A brand new 55 or better community. If you've seen Seinfeld and you know about Boca Vista, it was that, but in Tawnytown, Maryland, Carol Vista. We started lifeguarding there, and the thing about it was brand new, beautiful pool. Maximum was 4 feet. Was it even that deep? I think 4 feet.
Something like 4 feet.
And so outdoor pool and then indoor pool that was tiny. The indoor pool was like, I don't know, more of a like just a little workout pool. Was not a lap pool by any means.
That one
and
was
a hot
not 4
tub
feet. That one
inside.
Not. Yeah.
So the way that it works with guarding too, it's capacity, right? You have like 1 guard per every 25 people or something. So they only needed 2 guards on duty at all times.
Because they needed 1 guard inside, 1 guard outside.
Correct. So we had the 3 of us. So we're like, they were elated, Century, because we were having been able to find lifeguards out there, and it was a long distance. A lot of these lifeguard companies, when they can't find staffing here in the U.S., it's always weird to me. I see this in Annapolis a lot too. I'm like, this is a water town. Kids not lifeguard anymore?
Do you still see that here?
Tons. And I've read about it too on little forums where people are like, hey, do you have any bikes for the lifeguards? Because they get a lot of Eastern European. They do almost like contractors to come in for the summer. And, they don't pay them like anything, but they give them like housing. They didn't pay them the same amount as us. And they give them housing. And so it's like a shared apartment.
I feel like those are all local kids, but I haven't been there enough this year.
But so it's like a shared, usually a shared living space or whatever. And so for this Tawnytown location, we were far from the Century offices. It would have been hard for them to staff and get people there. Yeah. Because the people driving, you don't have a car here and all of that. They're literally taking bikes, most of those guards, that are Eastern Europeans, to work. So they're like, great, you have 3 people. They staffed it with Morgan, Kiki, and I. The kicker with this is when you're now lifeguarding at a pool, And it's a pool. You need to have something called a pool operator certification. So none of us had that. And the pool operator's test isn't that easy. You need to study for this. There's some chemistry involved. It's stuff that's not intuitive.
Did you ever have to take the real test?
Yes.
Dude, it is not
It's
only
hard.
is it not easy, it was insanely hard. Lindsay and I will never forget. We were like, oh, it's probably like, taking the lifeguarding test. Like, we'll get it, We looked at each other. We thought we could just kind of like skim it.
Didn't study.
Didn't study at all. We looked at each other and we were like, let's just get up and leave.
Well, that's the boater safety was kind of the same. It's not intuitive.
My God.
We were allowed to take that at Cunningham together. And I'll tell you right now, I want to shout out to 854, I think.
855, I think Kiki would have been.
Well, Kiki 855, but 854, I believe, helped us as well.
Yes, 854 absolutely did.
854, we had a little bit of an open book scenario.
Yeah, 854 and 855, which was Kiki. Thank God the Rangers were like, we're going to walk away. And I would have never passed my boater safety if they hadn't.
You have to have your boating license to drive that little boat.
Yeah.
One person on the squad already had his boater license, so he helped us out with some of the answers. Mm-hmm. And then Kiki's was just more intuitive. That was more Kiki's vibe. Whatever.
Well,
Kiki
she also probably
studied. Yeah, I guess we did. I
just remember being like an open book. I remember literally looking at Kiki and I was like, I don't know
before the season. Yeah, and we cheated.
We absolutely cheated.
But I will tell you this. I had my boating license before my husband Joe.
Yeah, I can't.
Because I had it in high school.
Donnie
so I will tell you, when I started dating Cease, it was really funny because I was like, you want me to jump back there? I was dying. The first little boat he had was like 13-foot little outboard motor. It was like what we learned on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still in my backyard.
Exactly.
And I was like, this is what I learned how to drive a boat on. And so he was like, yeah. And I go, I have my license. He's like, you have your boating license? He's like, this is actually awesome because most of his guy friends he would go out with didn't. So why he didn't care if they, but you have to be sober. You have to worry about it's all on you.
Serious.
So when you get your boating license in Maryland, your grandfather, and I even lost my card. Or my wallet got stolen, my car was in it, reached back out to DNR. I got that, babe. They sent me a new copy.
Oh, that's awesome. I still have, the funny thing is I still have the old copy, which is like,
it's a laminate.
It's laminate, but my old handwriting that was like, even worse, or just like even more childlike.
Yeah. But the boating, so I say this with the how we got it and having to use a little teamwork to pass the test, because then we go to the pool and they're like, great. Do any of you have your pull ups? And we're like, no.
No, because we knew we had tried to do this
okay,
before.
Can you pass? We're like, do we have to? We also had told this people, you have to renew your CPR every year. And typically that's on you. And the company was like, okay, well, we're doing a class in, I don't know, some pool in like Howard County where they were closer to. And we're like, we're not driving all the way to Howard County. Like, can you come to the pool? They send someone to that pool to teach us a private CPR research. So we didn't have to pay for it, because usually you did have to pay extra every year. And when they heard we didn't have the pool op, they're like, okay, we'll figure it out. And this is also something I just heard myself kind of go into an accent, and I didn't mean to. I only did that because I'm storytelling and I'm thinking of this guy's accent. Our manager at the time from Century, his name was Dominic. Dominic, I don't know where you are now.
Dominic, I hope this gets you. We loved Dominic.
We loved Dominic.
Dominic, also, we should say, as a side note, Dominic was beautiful. Yeah. Dominic was stunning.
He was giving me Patrick Swayze vibes.
Oh my God.
And because he was a little bit outdated in fashion. His jeans were tight. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he was outdated. He was fit.
Yes.
But also, he had an accent, which made him hotter.
Oh.
So let's paint a picture. I'll step back to even before the CPR training. Mm-hmm. We have to go in person to sign contracts. This is before e-signature, I guess. So we drive down to like Columbia.
Way before.
This is before DocuSign.
Way before DocuSign.
We drive down to Columbia, Maryland, and I'm pretty positive. Yeah, there were 2 interactions with him. I'm getting confused on, maybe it was just then when you are with him in person. But regardless, I'm pretty sure in my mind, I'm remembering us signing documents to get started. And Dominic, I can't remember exactly where he's from, but he had an accent. He was like, okay, so you need to sign these documents, and, we'll come to you. We will do the CPR, blah, blah, blah. And Morgan,
again, we're realizing they're desperate at this point. So Morgan, we're just milking it.
Loses her shit. he's talking. And he goes, oh, is it my accent?
And it wasn't his accent.
I
was just in a giggle. I can't remember what it was, but I was in a giggle mood. I'm sitting there with my
had also been, he walked out of the room. I think we were like hot. We were like making comments.
I'm sure I had probably eaten in the car right before we got there because it was like a long drive.
She was dying, couldn't get it together.
So he thinks I'm making fun of his accent. Absolutely was not making fun of his accent.
But he's like blushing. We're like, no. And Morgan's like, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't that at all.
Like, I don't even know why I'm like losing it right now.
Fast forward to then. So we've met Dominic in person. We've talked to him on the phone. We all know his accent. He's a cute guy. He's like, yeah, well, I'll do the CPR training. We'll bring someone too. So we're like, okay, great. But we don't know it's going to be him.
Oh, yeah.
He shows up to do the CPR training. Not only that, but he goes and he gets us pizza. He's like, oh, bye. We're like, yeah, let's cater lunch. He's like, yeah, I'll order you guys. What do you guys want for lunch?
Yeah.
Orders us pizza. It was so sweet. But it wasn't just CPR. That's what it was. It was backboard training as well. Yeah, we had to do it.
Full recertification because he got in the water.
Important thing to note, we talked about the uniforms at Cunningham. Cunningham, it was on you to get your bathing suit, but everything had to be red sporty.
Which honestly was like, thank God.
Yes. At Century Pool Management, they supplied you with your bathing suit. You gave them a size, and it was a Speedo
orange,
bright orange, not a flattering color, especially at the beginning of the season when you're not tan yet. Mm-hmm. And it was tight. And if you were a swimmer, a swimming bathing suit is like 2 sizes smaller than your actual suit to be tight, no drag. So this wasn't like 2 sizes, but tight. It was not comfortable. And again, you're sitting in it all day, pull to the side, blah, blah. So we opted, since it was the 3 of us, and since the retirement community was new, we were the first. It was literally the pool had just been built. So we opted, we're wearing our own uniforms.
No one's going to know.
We're going to do a red sporty suit.
No one's coming out to Tawny Town. Right. So, hey, 3 of us, let's wear all our Cunningham stuff.
And because the headquarters, the offices were so far away, we're like, no one's just checking up on us. So the day when Dominic comes, we wear the orange suit, which were disgusting, not flattering. I've always had thighs, hips. I do not look good in a suit like that.
No.
Morgan goes in to go to the bathroom before the training starts. And Dominic's like, okay, go close the indoor pool so we just do the training out here. And she goes in to close the pool and she comes out running, does a cannonball into the pool and yells, Dominic! As she does it. And he was turned, but you didn't race with the water. He's like, he whips his head around, like, definitely heard you. We were like, oh my God. We're like, what the fuck is she doing?
Oh, it was, if you can't make yourself laugh, man.
No, oh my God, we were
going to entertain the three of
dying. And I'm sure we were like, he won't do it.
I will say, you guys probably dared me. And also, he had set the tone at that point where he was like, I like you guys.
Yeah, we were giggling. We're like, Dominic, you're back.
Yeah.
And so then we do the backboard training. We're laughing through it. And Dominic's in the pool with us. We're having a good time. And then so he's like, okay, let's do CPR now. So he's going through the step. We have the dummy there. If you took it in high school, remember, Chris Clean, we have the thing. So he's walking us through it. He's like, okay, so you start with the compressions and then you want to, do the breathing. And then Morgan interjects and says, give him a kiss a little bit. He's like, oh, no, well, no. I'm like,
they would give you, the plastic thing so you wouldn't have to. And I said, Dominic, take it off.
No, you're like, Dominic, can we do a real version? No, she didn't say that. But yeah, then after that, we're like, oh my God, are you getting us lunch? And he was like, yeah, let me get you a pizza. Anyway, so Dominic also, we go through the training, we get certified, great. Comes back, but anytime, just a note on the uniforms, any other time they randomly would have to come and like fix something or like go meet with, I don't know, the staff at the actual community.
The community, yeah.
Then they're like, oh, you're not wearing your uniform. I was like, oh, well, this is like my other one. My other one was like dirty when they had the one uniform. They didn't care, or he wouldn't acknowledge it. He wouldn't even make it, or we'd throw on our T-shirt.
Exactly. I was going to say,
because they at least gave us the cute little t-shirts. Sophie short roll-ups at the time. So we would wear those a lot.
T-shirts, so you could throw that on and cover it up.
But
again, they were desperate, and we knew that. But the pull-up, so here was the thing.
So that's what they said. The CPR, they're like, we got you. We'll come to you with the pull-up.
But with the pull-up, though, also, Dominic, so at this point, we have a fully established relationship with Dominic.
Yes.
He knows we're not close. He knows we're not ratting him out.
Yes.
We're same page. So he goes, any of you have the pull-ups? He knows at that point we don't have the pull-up. And he goes, don't worry about it. Because what you need to understand is we are too far away from their headquarters for someone to just easily come and actually do the testing.
Health department, well, it was all set, but the health department regulations are this. And the health department, just like in a restaurant, they don't tell you when they're going to come show up and do a health department check. So what had happened was he knew none of us had pool op and it was going to be an issue. But he was like, okay, I'm going to ride this out. And the one time they'll just try to get there in time because they'll tell you if the health department shows up, one of the things is there a pool op on duty, or they have to get there within an hour, or they have
to be within a distance,
distance like a certain amount of time. Yeah. So it was like one time I think they were able to make it happen, but they told them like, "Hey, you need to." They're like, "Oh, but they're in the process."
That's right. I was gonna say, why was it
they
later?
Already had like a lie going.
Yeah.
And at this point too, then we knew the pool, the health department person. Because there was some issues with the pool being new that we didn't know what we were doing. We hadn't worked in a pool before where we're like, okay, Dominic did have to come and teach us how to do the chemistry, touch the pH, but also the chlorinator and like backwashing the pool, all of that. We were like, we can't screw up this equipment.
Right.
Because it would,
it would literally break the machine.
Break the machine.
Yeah.
So after we got that ding, I think it was we got 2 strikes of just the showing up on time. And when that happens, you shut the pool down. So the patrons here, it's a retirement community and they were fantastic. They like never got in the water, but if they couldn't sit there and have their little kiki moment of the day.
No, they want the pool to be open.
Then they were going to be hot on us. So Dominic is like, okay, he calls us like it was a secret mission. He's like, who is working on Tuesday? And,
Kiki was working.
Kiki's working and I'm working. He's like, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to close the indoor pool.
Close the indoor pool.
We're just going to have one of you work.
Outside.
And 2 of you are going to meet me in Colombia. Here's what we're going to do. There was a stipulation where Century Pool Management did have the ability to do, give a pool operator's class, but it wasn't like CPR all the time or something. So if you got a certification for Century Pool, Howard County said, that's fine, you're pool up. Carroll County, where we were guarding at the time, said, no, not okay. So what we had to do, we had to meet him in Howard County. He was like, come meet me in Howard County. Once you meet me here, I will take you and Morgan. We will get you the certificates for your pool operator.
But here's the thing. Do you remember though? Yeah. So do you remember though that we didn't really understand because again, they were trying not to say too much.
Yeah.
And like there was a little bit of a language barrier.
Yeah, we got it out of them as the day progressed.
Right. We didn't really understand. We were like, are we going? We assumed we were somehow they were going to like actually train us or somehow yada yada. We did not know what was really to come.
So let's set the scene of how the day starts.
Yeah.
Morgan and I get in a car. We drive to the Century Pool Management office in Columbia, Maryland, which is an hour and a half away from Emmitsburg, where we were living at the time. We meet Dominic. Again, we don't know all the details. Dominic, we're thinking we're coming here just to get the cert. And we're like, we're going to be pool up. We kept joking to Kiki being like, oh, we're pool ops. You're not. Because she was working that day. He's like, I needed one person to stay on.
Exactly.
And she had been off the day previous. So for pay wise, we wanted her to work.
Right.
So we meet him at the office. He hands us certificates and we're like, we're pull-ups, we passed, like giving him a show, And he's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Then I'm going to have you drive. We knew we were going to have to go to a second location. We didn't understand. I don't think I knew we were going to go to a second location.
No, we did not.
We then follow him in our car. I can still see him in his little Hyundai white Century Pool Management, his little car. He's like, you are then going to follow me to the health department in Carroll County. We're like, okay. And they're like, Howard County recognizes the Century Pool certification. It is not recognized by Carroll County. So what we need to do is then take those certificates to Carroll County and tell Carroll County it was forged documents to make us. It was like we took those certificates.
It was like, oh, hey, they passed in Howard County. You can.
We have to transfer it and then write it up.
And
then he literally came physically with us to be like our sign off that it wasn't just this certificate
that we actually.
And then they're like, okay, here you go. You're both pool ops, and we're like, okay.
But remember though, it was So he was like, drive to second location. I remember we were behind the building. It was literally like we were doing a drug deal.
Yeah, we were like, what?
And we were like,
and this is also,
it was outside.
We're not talking.
We were removed from everyone. We're in a back parking lot that was not, it was
and he's like, okay, I remember him coming out to the car and being like, okay, you guys ready? And of course, him knowing, he probably was thinking, fuck, of all the ones, both of them, it's Kiki. Kiki's the one working. Yeah. Morgan is going to laugh her ass off and blow our cover.
Right.
And he's like, okay, because we're like, we're on it, Dominic. We trust you. Yeah. Like, you know, whatever you say, Dominic. And being extreme, like, make him laugh. But I remember coming over to the car one time and being like, okay, we ready? We're like, let's go do this thing. Yeah. And we go in there and I really couldn't look at you.
I didn't say anything.
I couldn't look at you because I knew we would start laughing.
I just didn't say anything. I just stood there silent.
You know, so he fills it out. And so we go from Emmitsburg to Howard County back to, it was like Westminster.
Yeah.
Westminster and Carroll County. This is like a whole day of us driving around to get these fraudulent documents created for our pool ops so that way the pool doesn't get shut down.
Yeah.
And then the real kicker is Kiki had, because they mentioned at the beginning of the summer, like, you're going to, you know, we need you guys to have a pool ops. Of course, we're like, Kiki, you are Tribune. You will have the higher success rate. No, but they had a binder. I remember Century gave it to us. They're like, start studying.
Yeah.
Kiki had started studying and was definitely retaining it.
Kiki was the only one that actually knew how to do the pool ops stuff.
The chemistry.
The chemistry of it.
Yeah, I knew that I could put dechlor in the hot tub.
Well, and also I always, my favorite thing was just like realizing, hey, just take a couple of these tablets, the chlorine tablets, and throw them in the skimmer.
But we
found out later that's not what we're supposed to do.
Let's back up. One, correct. So Kiki started studying through this binder on her own time during the pool day because literally at Boca Vista, especially the first year, the neighborhood 55 or better means it was a retirement community, and that was their slogan. You had to be at least 55 to live there. You could live there if you could only live there under 55 if someone you were living with was 55 or better. So there were some random young people, but there was also some wives that were a couple years younger, like 49 or something, living there. And so it was a lot of people that were transplants from like Baltimore County, DC. So they were not like from tiny town. It was a really funny mix of patrons at the time, but they didn't get in the pool. They would literally be like, at the first year, especially because there was not that many people, they were like, don't get up. Oh my God. Are you getting out of the chair? Stop.
They'd be like, because there would be times where there's literally no one there.
Yeah, they're like, I'm just putting my feet in.
I would be laying in the sun. Yeah. I mean, laying in the shade,
laid out constantly.
Sleeping. And then I'd wake up and they'd be like standing, pulling up.
In the pool.
I didn't want to wake you up, sweetie.
Yeah. And they would bring us magazines.
We got raises from going from Cunningham to the most cush job ever. We were like, more money. Thank you.
Yeah, and then they would bring us stacks of magazines. They were great. But so Kiki is really the one that's more well-versed in it. She officially never gets her pull-ups because she had to work that day. And it was just hysterical that we're like, oh, this is because prior to Kiki then also getting more familiar with the chemistry, the hot tub was new to us. We hadn't done with a hot tub before. And so when you're putting chlorine in, there's like a big tower you can put chlorine tablets in, the chlorinator. It wasn't working for the outdoor pool correctly. So we had learned from Dominic, a workaround was to, at the end of the day, take a couple chlorine tablets and put them in each skimmer basket to get the chlorine to the right level to pass. We were like, great. We knew all the workarounds to pass with
chlorine was always on top. No one worried that people were swimming without. No, it was always chlorinated.
It was fine.
Yes.
Now the problem was, it would only take like a minute. The chlorinator worked for the hot tub, and it would take like literal 2 minutes for that thing to go from 0 to 100.
Yep.
And we forgot some days that we left the chlorinator on, and when we would test that chlorine, my eyes were, I'll never forget, Kiki and I the one day.
The whole indoor pool, remember, was like, it's so chlorinated.
The first time it happened, Kiki and I one day, I'm like, I'm fucking coughing. I'm like, Kiki, I can't be in the indoor pool room. We came in the morning, we were like, holy shit, we left the chlorinator on. We test the chlorine. It's ridiculously high. Our eyes are burning. We're like, people are going to come in here for water aerobics soon. We really didn't want to deal with the people.
Right.
Because, these are retirees. They have nothing to do but complain. We don't know what to do. We don't know what dechlorinator is to drop it. Picture Kiki and I looking for anything in the bucket. We're emptying out trash cans. We have an industrial-sized trash can that we then fill up with too much water, and we're just dumping it profusely, running like we are. Like, we're like laughing back. I remember recently we were like, dude, that place had cameras. Like, people probably saw us with these fucking trash can buckets.
Can you imagine what the actual like staff that was working there probably thought? They were probably like, where?
Oh, Randy loved us.
That's true. Randy did love us.
Randy was the community manager. He had
That's
a cake
right.
job, and he loved us. And they used to have luau's and events, and they give us food there, the patrons.
Oh my God.
But it was a cush job. It was
and I
so
should
many
say this
memories.
Too. The reason that we also can be like Century this, Century that, because Century went under. Century screwed Stacey and Kiki over.
F off.
Everybody, anyone, let the comments flood. Hashtag Century Pools, and let the comments flood of every person that got screwed over by Century Pools.
Yeah, we lost money that summer. Like, honestly,
I met people as an adult that would be like, oh, I got screwed over by Century Pool too.
We knew other guards after the fact that had as well. And the company stopped paying. They were like, oh, it was delayed, payroll's delayed.
They ran out of money.
They ran out of money. They stopped paying all the guards and staffs. But the real kicker was the guards that were in the country that were like the summer contractors from Eastern Europe, they didn't have money to get them back. And there was the ones that were in Frederick were living, there was like 10 of them living in like a fucking 2-bedroom apartment. And they had no money. They had like hardly anything to even cook with. And they were stuck in Frederick for a long time.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, they claimed bankruptcy, and then we got letters that were basically like, well, you're shit out of luck.
You're shit out of luck. You lost $2,000.
Yeah. It was more than that for Kiki. God. Because she had continued into the fall, which was like a lot of money.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
as a college kid.
Century, Dominic, if you're out there, we love you.
Dominic, God, wouldn't it be great, if this pod, we get reconnected with Dominic? That would be amazing.
But maybe we should leave people with, because while we're, the great stories and all that, some water safety tips.
Yes, because in all seriousness, as some of these things we've already kind of started to touch on, but Coast Guard approved when it comes to life jackets for your kids, especially, but
any kind of water wing, and I will
say too,
device.
Yes, 100% for your children, but also for adults, because it happens here in Annapolis every single year, whether it's at the beginning of the season or the end of the season, because the water here, this is East Coast. Our water gets warm. Yesterday I was swimming. It was 85 degrees. Heavenly. And that might sound like, ooh, too warm, but no. When it's nice, open, refreshing water, perfect. And so folks sometimes when the weather starts to change from fall to spring, and then from summer back to fall, and it's the water's getting cold again. People don't realize it, and yes, they can swim, but happens all the time. Kayak flips, person's not wearing a life jacket.
Yeah.
Hypothermia, starts to kick in as the, there's a current that they didn't realize is there, and someone drowns. So it's, Coast Guard approved, more times than I can count have happened here locally. And like we said earlier with my save, a raft, just because you have a raft, that is not a safety device. And if you can't swim and you can't stand in the water where you're using the raft, forget about it.
Yeah. Lifeguards are not babysitters.
No. And so, yes. And it's also for your kids, it's eyes on the kids. There's always got to be someone designated where there's eyes on the kids. Stacey already mentioned earlier the color of the clothing. So you can easily do a quick Google on that. But like bright yellow, bright pink, those are great in most like pool, lake, ocean. Buddy system always. So like if you are going out, like I just mentioned, you're going out by yourself, you must have a life jacket on, make sure someone knows where you are, but ideally you're always going out with someone. Buddy system. Staying hydrated, because we would see that all the time in the heat at Cunningham. Make sure you're drinking water, because passing out happens too. Hit your head on a rock.
Cramping.
Yes.
That's a big reason why people drown that are in open water too, that are good swimmers. You get a muscle cramp in your foot.
That's what happened to that. That's what they think happened to that. Remember that actress? I can't remember her name. I think she was from Glee. Remember she drowned a couple of years back?
Yeah, in the lake.
Yes.
Off a pontoon situation.
Yep. And they're like, they knew she could swim. It's probably, again, that's a situation where by herself with a child, you don't have a life jacket on, you get a cramp, you get tired, can't, so she drowned. So same thing there, staying hydrated. And then again, like I mentioned, being aware of the temperature of the water. And float.
I have one more too.
Know how to float.
It was interesting.
That's your biggest life saving.
Of the times when we were at Cunningham where it was there would be saves or situations where like a kid was in trouble, and oftentimes I'm not like blaming the parent, but like most oftentimes I think they were so embarrassed they just wanted to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
I remember specifically at times parents were just like bolted. They left.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, but I say that not about like thanking of, don't worry about the embarrassment.
Yeah.
Do listen to what's being told. 'Cause I remember one time when it was Lindsay and another guy on our staff that it was a kid in one of those old suits, like death trap thing, the not Coast Guard approved that you couldn't flip over. And the little girl had taken a lot of water, and so they did rescue breathing.
Yes,
and she coughed up a lot of water. But we told the mom, you know, there's nothing you don't have like a trail once they leave the park. It's like someone getting an ambulance, you don't know, and then what happens.
You really need to go to the doctor.
And they're like, please do follow up, because you can have what they call a dry drowning, which is there's still gonna be water in a kid's lungs or a person's lungs.
And what they mean by dry drowning is that you're not in the water.
You're not in the water, but
you're
water,
wet inside.
Like she took in water, obviously, because they had her. So it can just cause other problems, ammonia and things. So if it happens to you or your kid, and they're like, you know, you would know if they needed to have any kind of rescue breathing or laid on their side.
Yes, you should always be following up with your physician.
Yeah, get that
your
checked.
pediatrician
and
or
do it
ER
quickly.
doctor. Yeah.
Do it that day.
Yeah, because it can, if you let them sleep overnight, you know, they could technically drown in their sleep. So it's totally worth an urgent care, an ER visit,
all the things. But have fun out there. Do get on the water.
Because we are all water
You heard
girls.
it here first from these two water girls and former guards. But
and you
guard,
don't have to,
guard once, guard for life.
Guard once, guard for life. And, you know, just like Angel says, Angel doesn't say this, but Angel
just passed his swim test.
Angel just passed his swim test. And Angel also is a water girl, as we say in our house. Water girl isn't about your gender. Water girl is about your lifestyle. So water girls, absolutely. But Dominic, we miss you. We love you. Hopefully this gets to you.
Yeah. And cheers to 20 episodes. Thanks again,
thanks
everybody,
again,
for
you guys.
loving, listening, the feedback, the reviews, the support. And I can't wait to see our reviews go up.
Share. It's the reviews and sharing it. It is so heartwarming when we hear just so many different people say how much they're loving the pod. And so what we would ask is for you to share.
And you know what? If you review it or you share us, do let us know, and we'll give you a shout out.
We'll give you a shout out, and we do have stickers, so we will figure out.
Yeah, let us know. We'll get you a sticker.
We would love that.
Anyway, I think we're good to wrap.
Divas,
and here's where we'll fade out with the Baywatch theme song. We won't because of copyright infringement, but
some people stand in the darkness. Love you, Mitch.
Divas.
Divs.